Oh, hello. Yeah, that's weird. Okay, hold on. Chat, let me see. Yeah, this is better. This is much better. No, there was a noise gate on. I don't remember. I don't remember it being a noise gate, but there's a noise gate on. I think we should be good now. The noise gate was probably cutting me out for something. Yeah. So, with all that said, you have the Switch who is on track to, compete with some of the best hardware performances out there. Proot, how's it going, by the way? And to me, that just blows my mind. The Switch continues to not only prove that it's got life in it still by selling that many 100,000. That's like, think about that. If that's the average for a handful of weeks, that's a million pieces of Switch sold, and it's still doing that within. So it's 7-8 years out. I wanted to bring that up because if you look comparatively, Gail, thanks for the subscription. If you look comparatively, PlayStation 5, PlayStation 4, 15 units total. PlayStation 5 digital, 3,000 units. PlayStation 5 new, 21,000 units. So the Switch is still outselling a PS5 in Japan to this day. Now, naturally, hardware restraints are a factor, but even the Series X, so this is actually good numbers for an Xbox in Japan. Xbox doesn't typically sell well in Japan. It's got 10,000 copies. To me, this just tells me that the Switch has a long life in it. And again, I say all that to switch to the fact that, yes, obviously PlayStation 5 is increasing its prices. So again, we've talked a little bit about this. There's a lot of reasons for this to happen. One being the fact that there's been chip restraints for going on to almost 3 years now with COVID impact, right? Those chip restraints are hitting every industry. Someone in the chat here works in the automobile industry. You might see, I don't know how directly you work with that type of part specifically, but I mean, it's even impacting automobiles to the fact when you buy new cars today, not only are they hard to get, but a lot of new cars have restraints on features that they have compared to what they were coming out with in 2019. So some features just might not be there, but they'd be there in the older cars. And no, the Switch isn't increasing the price. Neither has Xbox. Both Xbox and Switch have just basically said we have no plans to do that, which, isn't, a strong, we're not doing it kind of mode. But the reality is the Switch already kind of did that with the OLED model, to be fair. They got a $50 increase out of it already whenever they released that OLED model without necessarily getting a major jump in cost as well. So all that aside, it's going to be a interesting type of situation. So, the Switch is still doing well. The PS5 is increasing its prices. Xbox doesn't have a need to increase its prices. It's actually doing well in Asia. And along with the approach Microsoft has been going with, where they're not so much focused on hardware sales, but they're focused on getting a larger user base. This has a lot to do with their cloud gaming model, right? I don't know if anyone here in the chat uses Xbox Cloud Gaming, but the fact that you could stream your games to your platform, to your phone, to your your computer, to your Steam Deck, to your any mobile device, an iPad or anything like that. Anything that's on Xbox Game Pass for the most part will work on Xbox streaming cloud. There's a lot of caveats there. But here's the reason why I bring that up too. PS5's model, the PlayStation model has been hardware. They're talking about getting a PC storefront now because I think they're seeing limitations with that reach given the hardware restraints. The Nintendo Switch model, they're conservative, right? A lot of these companies want to give you the most intense, ephemeral experience, if you will. Nintendo and I heard this earlier today from someone, but I think this makes sense. Nintendo historically has always cared about giving you good value. Not value just strictly in an economic sense, but like they understand we're human beings that have a lot of responsibilities, and for the most part, they're targeting younger people. So even if they're targeting younger people, they still want adults to play with them too. Hence why they emphasize cloud gaming. Hence why they're not really stressing about having the latest and greatest online model. Hence why their systems are extremely affordable from the get-go. They released a brand new game console for $299. Right? PlayStation 5 now costs $550. The Xbox Series X costs $500. Now, here's the thing. Microsoft has the Series S, which is lower price point. I think it still does a lot of the great things that, the Series X can do. And most gamers won't notice a difference. So, all that aside, I don't know what's going to happen to Sony. Yeah, they make their systems to be something you could throw against the wall because they assume that a child's going to be very mad whenever that one freaking rabbit in Super Mario Odyssey just destroys them, right? I'm not speaking from experience, don't worry. So I say all that to say this is something that Logitech is coming out. And when I first heard about this, I was like, no interest. But here's why I think it's something to think about. If this thing releases at $99, and this is a Logitech-made Google Android device that has Xbox Cloud Game Pass on it, has any type of other cloud gaming device on it, along with your entire Google Play storefront. I mean, imagine playing Nino Kuni Crossworlds or whatever on this device. Now, I say all that because a lot of attention in gaming today is focused on monetization and user base, right? And if you go to anywhere in anywhere else besides North America or Europe, and if you go in APEC, Africa, places of that nature, people were playing games on mobile phones. And the potential to get more of these types of games in the hands via a mobile delivery system that's affordable and effective, I think is really drawing a lot of the way people are planning their game out. So PlayStation can't get the hardware out. They're going to start putting more games on PC, which I think is a smart bet. They're obviously focused. You know, Sony cares more about their IP, right? Everyone knows that. Jacob, how's it going? How's it going, everyone? Black licorice, no. I don't even care if Jacob here likes black licorice, but I'd rather no. So all that to say, it's going to be an interesting 4 to 5 years in the hardware market, specifically in the gaming market. There's a recession happening, right? A lot of people debating on what a recession is. When I was getting my MBA, there was no debates about it. So I think, you could say it's Microsoft's dream. I think Microsoft in some way saw this coming. They have the capital to play a market share game while PlayStation struggles. Again, PlayStation has good IP. But the problem is PlayStation's competing with a premium offering in a economy that's kind of saying we need to shrink back. And the video game industry is a large part of growth in the entertainment sector overall in the last 20 years. And now we're going to see some shrinkage there. Yeah, that's a good point. I don't know why K-Max is on now that he's talking about black licorice. This is offensive. Sunshine, I'm curious to hear your thoughts. I think within the next 5 years, you probably do see an upgrade of some type to the Switch, but it's not necessarily going to be insane. I think it's going to be adopting certain types of features and functions that they need to stay competitive at the very least. But Nintendo, in the long run, from the very beginning, hasn't cared much about third-party support. I mean, this is in the original, genesis of the NES itself. They have cared about restraining bad quality onto the market. And as you have a higher increase of third-party publishers, I mean, look at the Steam marketplace. When there's more people making games, the quality tends to be less. It's just how it is. Jacob, have a good weekend, buddy. So, I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if, as PlayStation focuses more on curating their IP, I mean, there's a Twisted Metal TV show coming out. I don't know if you guys have heard that they end up struggling a bit this generation, especially through the larger macro trends happening out there in the cultures, right? I think Microsoft gets back to a dominant position. And I say all of that to transition to Phil Spencer, who I think has been a win for the Microsoft Studio team, has virtually confirmed, even though the deal is not done, and we'll talk about that, chat, that Call of Duty, Overwatch, and Diablo will come to Game Pass. Now, I say all of that. Game Pass Cloud on your phone. Call of Duty on your phone now. I mean, there's already the Call of Duty mobile experience from what I understand, which is huge in a lot of countries, just like Fortnite mobile is and PUBG mobile too in certain countries. But now you could actually get the console version streamed. You have more 5G network. Again, I saw some people talking about, streaming being, pretty iffy. I don't have any desire to do it myself. I'm curious to know how your PS Plus subscription platform with streaming games tends to work, because that is one thing Sony has been doing is they've been putting more content out on the PS5 that's been locked into like a PSP PS3 space and so forth. Essentially, you're going to have these games on Game Pass, and I don't think this is Microsoft saying it's going to be exclusive. I'm pretty sure they've confirmed that these games are also going to be available on PlayStation and so forth. But to me, this is showing strong confidence from the Microsoft side that they're hearing something, most likely from regulators here in the U.S., where this deal is going to have to go through, that this is happening. So this means everything from Candy Crush to World of Warcraft to Overwatch are all going to be free to play on Game Pass. With the Game Pass coming out with that family subscription plan, like friends and family for up to 5, which, maybe we need to talk about that within the Discord, guys. This is just looking to be a good, you might not see a lot of innovation in this generation of gaming, but I think you're going to see, maybe not innovation is the right word, because there's going to be a lot of innovation in how people play together. But I think what's happening most in this generation is larger ability for people to cross-play and interact with each other that might have been limited to hardware before in the last place. So I think it's going to, in some way, give more people the ability to play. I mean, Microsoft is putting Game Pass in TVs, guys. It's kind of crazy. Hey, Nikki, COD on the phone, I don't want that, but people do play it, and people really do enjoy it. It's kind of crazy. It blows my mind. Yeah. I actually heard about some people in the gaming industry getting upset that their children were learning how to use an analog stick that was digital and it wasn't a true stick. I find that funny, but I digress. Yeah, and again, the difficulty with a mobile phone is this thing's coming out, right? So this is an Android device made by Logitech that if it releases for under $100, and here's the thing, you're going to see tons of these hit the marketplace. It's not just, Logitech doesn't have a patent on this type of technology. So if this is something that, Logitech makes one and a lot of other hardware manufacturers make one, and I do think this is targeted for someone like China, to be honest with you. Anyways, so some of the big things happening in the hardware player space, I think, the PS5 is not going anywhere. KMAX talking about what IP do they have. No one will typically disagree that the Sony IP still releases highly polished, great storytelling-oriented games. And I think for that reason alone. Now, there's rumors, and I dare say rumors in the gaming sense, but, not to rest a lot of weight on that. But, Square just got rid of a ton of IP they don't want. And people are desiring that means Sony's going to buy them up, right? Like they bought Bungie. But the truth is a company like Sony, especially the PlayStation, is a small portion of what Sony's all about. And they don't necessarily have the capital to do something huge with Destiny, besides let Destiny be a good profit engine for them. And I think they're going to look at acquiring companies for that reason, while someone like Microsoft seems to acquire companies to hopefully grow and create more players in their system too. Yeah, Philippines is huge on mobile gaming. A lot of the people I worked with there had like 5-hour commutes on a daily basis, and they would mostly play games I never heard of on their mobile phones, but were huge in the rest of the world, and it kind of blew my mind. All right, enough about hardware chat. Let's talk about Halo Infinite, the game that is early released and still not fully released and is getting delayed a little bit more. So co-op mode for people online seems to be getting pushed back to November. This is also happening along with the idea that they are pushing back their next season until March. So season 2 will continue onwards from about the beginning of the summer to March. Is anyone still playing Halo Infinite? I loved the campaign and getting to like jump around with the hook shot. I really hope Breath of the Wild 2 has a hook shot, because I think that game is infinitely better. But yeah, I haven't touched it in a long time. Now, I will say Halo Infinite is now running on the Steam Deck from the Steam store. So again, talking a little bit more about the Steam Deck, a lot of these games are getting some extra life because of that, interest. I could play this here as well. Now, I say all of that about the Steam Deck too, because the Steam has basically started getting ready for Tokyo Game Show, which I think happens in June or July. Not June or July. It's happening soon, I believe. And They've released some documentation to the Japanese market because Steam's not that big there. Which does anyone know what the big PC storefront is for Japan and all that? I am curious if they even have just the same makeup of PC gaming there. All that aside, Steam released basically a document, a sales marketing document to essentially say, hey, this is who Steam is. This is what we've done. This is what the Steam Deck is. And we're releasing more Steam Decks in the future. So the Steam Deck is a platform Steam seems to be committed to, which a lot of people were iffy on. Steam's released a lot of hardware in the past that they've just dropped off of, but I'm pretty sure the Steam Deck is already the most successful piece of hardware they've ever made. I know the Index is still getting made. That's their VR system. I know they have like Steam Box for TVs and things like that were very much, failures in some sense. But overall, the Steam Deck is not. It's people are enjoying it. I think the way they released it was smart. And at this point, Steam is committed to bringing that to other markets. More Steam Decks are getting shipped now that they're able to release it to other markets too. They want to do that without there being a better supply. So it's interesting. So, people were talking about this. What does the next Steam Deck look like? People think it's going to be more expensive, right? People think that, the high-end model of $500 for this one might be a lot more expensive for the low-end model in the future as these devices get stronger, essentially. So that's something to think about, too, as you think about Nintendo and the competition coming from Nintendo. But again, I think there's just a lot of interesting things happening with technologies kind of converging, and as we go more or less to a let's open up our games to more players, that comes with trade-offs of what the games look like. That means less people need a PS5, less people need top of the line PCs. Yeah, people just need certain devices and a good internet connection to really participate now, which I don't know. I think if a game's fun and more people can play, I think that's a win. Because again, my big belief is games are meant to be played together, and we are more human when we do things together. So I'll get off that high horse, although it's a little pony sometimes. Anyways, talking about Nintendo, I'm so pumped about this. Nintendo Direct coming out September. People think it might be the next week. I believe next Tuesday or Wednesday, September 12th, is what Jeff Grubb here, who's got a lot of insiders, are saying. Now, what's going to happen at this? We're at this point, people are believing this is a first-party Direct. So this isn't going to be third-party. This is going to be, here's the pipeline of Nintendo games you want. Now, are we going to get Super Mario Odyssey 2? Some people are saying no. Why are they saying no? Because they believe the team that made Odyssey is actually working on a Donkey Kong Country open platformer type game, or a brand new Donkey Kong Country game in general, which how they're going to release that, no one knows, right? That being said, people are saying there's going to be a lot of Zelda content, right? A lot of Zelda content. So, do we get a name for Breath of the Wild 2? Chat, what do you think? I think at this point we do. And this is hearing from other experts that are more knowledgeable than me. If you don't get a title anytime soon, you got to start worrying about when Breath of the Wild 2 is even coming out, right? Or if it's even coming out on the current version of the Switch. So again, what does another Switch look like? Is it even Switch 2? I saw Hams speculating about marketing. I think they learned a lot, hopefully. Nintendo's a company that tends to learn after they make mistakes. But I think the Breath of the Wild release is going to be a last major release on the new Switch. And who knows, maybe they do something with Switch Pro or something like that, And reality is they don't necessarily need people to adopt the new Switch. The Switch 1 is still selling like gangbusters too. So this isn't necessarily a time in the generation of hardware, again, where we're pushing forward. This is a time when we're trying to maintain quality, I would say. All that aside, I think you're going to see additional content. Will you get Wind Waker on the Switch? There's probably a good chance of it. Will you get some of the older games ported over? Like Majora's Mask, is that on through the emulator? We talked about Wind Waker. I think most of the other games are available. What I would love to see is some of the more classic games like Minish Cap or Oracle of Ages and Oracle of Seasons get ported over too. But you might see something like Wind Waker get a release just because a lot of people love that game, me being one of them. New trailer for Breath of the Wild 2? I think so. I think you get the name. Yeah, that's going to be next week. And depending on when it is, let's see if we look at the calendar here. There's a good chance I might try to stream it and watch it on stream. I wouldn't go much longer because if it's a daytime thing, I obviously have a real job. Not that I don't love all of you here that allow me to do this, but let's be honest, I can't feed my big belly without getting a job. Anyways, so yeah, Nintendo news, I'm excited about that. It's probably the most exciting thing I have to share this week, honestly. That's it. That's the show. I'm kidding, that's not the show. Here's something K-Max himself, chat, is so eager to hear. It involves his favorite game in the world. It is Fortnite. Fortnite Season 4 is rumored to have a partnership with Spiderverse skins. So, I think that means with the release of the new Spider-Verse movie, there's going to be some co-promotional opportunity, right? Which makes sense. I mean, I mentioned this before. I've heard this before from someone else. So again, I didn't write any of these articles, but you know what? It's one of those things where in the past, you used to market something on a box of cereal, and you still do that. But nowadays, Fortnite's the #1 way to market whatever you're doing. So, I mean, the Dragon Ball Super movie was the #1 movie in the US the other week. You had that correlate with a release in Fortnite. There's new DLC coming out for Destiny 2. They made sure to have some characters in Fortnite. There's some type of data out there that shows putting what you do in Fortnite, you're going to end up with better sales. K-Max says he's not a fan of this stuff. I am so surprised, chat. K-Max is typically able to be charitable towards all things, so it shocks me here. But all that aside, here's something I'm curious about. You know, and again, this is a conversation I've heard, but people always appreciate how in Fortnite it tends to converge all the different animations together. You know, you have Dragon Ball Z. It looks like the characters from Dragon Ball Z. You have Halo, Master Chief, God of War. They look like those characters from those games. In fact, the animation on top of that and the particle effects and all of that, they managed to bring it all together. And somehow or another, it works fine. You know, with the Spider-Verse movies, they have a very interesting frames per second approach to kind of make it feel choppy, right? Someone's saying Inklings in Fortnite. Yeah, I'd buy that. Mega Man's going to hit Fortnite one day too, and K-Max is going to take back everything he says. So people are wondering if the animation style for the Spider-Verse characters in Fortnite are going to have that unique style and animation that you saw in the movie. I think that would be incredible. I think that's one thing you have to give it to Fortnite. Again, more people keep playing the game. More people are saying things like, I can't believe I'm playing this game. What's wrong with me? Why do I keep talking about it? But the truth is when someone like K-Max is playing the game, you know that a lot of people must be finally enjoying it. So, yeah, keep an eye out on this. I hope Season 3... Hey, K-Max, when does Season 3 end? Bet he knows. Bet he knows. Season 3 is going to end, so this is something you might see by the end of September. So, I'm excited about this. What about you, chat? Should be interesting. Get rid of that one. We already talked about that. I played the 5th. No, you know. It's like September 27th or 17th or something like that. I blame Gilbert. No, I just blame K-Max. He's the one that got me into it. So, I know I talked about the Microsoft deal already because Phil Spencer's confident those games are going to be on Game Pass. But there's a slight delay. This came out yesterday, I want to say. Or no, yeah, yesterday, September 1st. TheGuardian.com. So, a large UK regulator is essentially saying that we want to give a few more days of holding off on any type of input on the acquisition deal. I think it's a $68 billion deal. That's insane for Microsoft to acquire Activision. And so while the US seems to be moving ahead with it, there's a chance something could happen in the UK. Now, the UK in the past has done more than the US wants to do. And again, hearing experts talk about this typically is because in the US, the operation point in the end is, will this somehow make prices higher? Then if so, we care, because then the consumers will care. But if prices are lower, people will consume and they'll be happy. The UK tends to look at more of a broader perspective of what competition is and how it could be impacted. You know, give an example where I think it was Android got in trouble for putting their Google OS as the default search engine. You know, there's a long history there with a lot of hardware and software providers having some struggles in the European market. So there's a chance something could happen here. The regulator basically said that they're giving the company 5 days to offer some solutions based on the concerns they've raised from a competition perspective. I don't know. I'm only sharing it that I still think you'll see this happen at this point, but that it's not 100% finalized. Pokemon cards are in the news. No, I would rather cover straight up gambling. I'm kidding. I am kidding. I want to cover that. But no, for anyone in the chat that needs to know, I vehemently can't do Pokemon cards for a lot of reasons. Yeah, Prude, I mentioned that briefly. I want to invest in it, and I want to invest in it and open up to other people that don't have it here. I still have a Series X. I don't play it, but I have Game Pass on my PC. And I think if it's something that includes friends and family on PC and console, might be worth it. Might be worth it. We might have to be doing that. Oh, you'd cover the Pokemon card news? I would let you cover trading card news. K-Max, I actually thought about something like that with you. Not trading cards, but just like gaming news in general. But I don't know if people could handle it. I don't know if people could handle your incredibly ruthless takes. Minecraft Amiibo coming out Friday. There's a Minecraft Amiibo. Let me see this real quick before I look at anything else. I've stopped buying Amiibos, and I'm trying to sell them. Ooh. Oh, also Advance Wars. People are wondering if Advance Wars is going to get the release that they've always been talking about. I mean, the game was ready to ship this past year, and they essentially said, no, we obviously don't want to be marketing a game about war. Obviously, when there's war breaking out, makes sense. And I think K-Max is the one that educated me on this, but I think something like that happened with the original Advance Wars back in 2001, right? So with this Nintendo Direct happening, coming up next week, people are wondering if it's going to be like a Sega Saturn type situation, which is like, oh yeah, Advance Wars is released. Everyone go buy Advance Wars. Let me see if there's anything on that. I mean, the game has been ready for a long time now. Documenting editing. You're documenting and editing this show for me. Thank you, Jacob. So yeah, nothing confirmed yet, nothing really said, but there's a chance that that game might just, suspiciously drop. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. So we talked about Logitech, we talked about the Nintendo Direct, we talked about K-Max's favorite game, Fortnite, we talked about the Sony price increase. What else? Oh, so there's, I think next week as well, there's a Disney Marvel game showcase. Two things that interest me about this is the fact that we might get an update on the new Star Wars Fallen Order game. Star Wars says there's a new game coming out by the makers of that, so you might see some details on that, might see some new trailers or information about that. But there's also the Marvel game they're talking about, so there's Marvel Midnight Suns that's coming out. I think it kind of looks like a mix of, what's that game? XCOM mixed with, Marvel superheroes with some like card elements to it. But there might be another game announced too. We're not really sure. There's some type of ensemble Marvel game that's just saying that it's going to come out. Jacob, you might get a Jedi game. So yeah, I wonder if you're going to see some type of Ultimate Alliance game, but a little bit different than the one recently released on the Switch. That was Ultimate Alliance 3, which I liked. I don't know, chat, if you guys played that game. That was a good one. So that's happening. And then, so Star Wars and Marvel next week, September 9th, I believe. I probably won't watch it. Depends on what time it is. Maybe I do try to cover it. Who knows? And last but not least, actually, let's be honest. Assassin's Creed has announced their new strategy. So we're going to get a new game. We're going to get more details on it next week on September 10th. Yeah, I think that's the date of the release is 9/8, Proot. Assassin's Creed Mirage. So this is a game that's actually getting back to the roots of what Assassin's Creed historically was. So Assassin's Creed 1, 2, 3, Unity, Brotherhood, all that stuff, Black Flag. They're taking out all of the RPG elements that you saw in Odyssey and Origins and Valhalla. And they're basically, like I said, getting back to the original game design and game mechanics. This is going to happen in the Middle East, and it's actually following a character from Valhalla named Basim, who journeys into the Middle East. So for those who like the original Assassin's Creed games, Mark can't talk, but nothing new there. You're going to see some more information about this next week at, it looks like 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 Pacific, on the Ubisoft channel. So keep an eye out on Ubisoft's Twitter account and probably YouTube and things like that, all the gaming sites. Now, I say that because as much as we have a confirmation about this new game, Ubisoft has also hinted at the fact that there's a new, essentially, Assassin's Creed platform that they're going to release. And this is a platform that's going to be like a games as a service type platform. Now, from what I know, this is going to be like Odyssey, like Origins, and like Valhalla, but it's just constantly going to get updates. I don't know how constant, but the idea is to update it long term. So from what I heard, there's rumors that the first release with this larger platform is going to be one based in Japan. Okay, based in Japan. And rather than being a Ghost of Tsushima ripoff, where it's a game about samurai, it seems to be that it will be a game about ninjas. So, you know, same thing. So yeah, we're gonna get some more news on that. I liked Origins. I loved Odyssey. I can't wait for that. It came out. I played a ton of Odyssey. By the time I got to Valhalla, I was just kind of burnt out. You know, the open world RPG game isn't something I hate, but I think the way they go about the content, I don't know. It's an interesting Ubisoft problem that's specific to how they do open world games typically. KMax will eventually be giving everything 10 cents. Anyways, Guild Wars 2 is doing a new strong marketing push as well. For those that don't know, it's the game that redefined MMORPGs. I'm just giving KMax a hard time. That's the Game Bites. That's the news. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for some of the tips on Amiibos.